Good evening, everyone. It is Friday evening. Sorry, Friday. I'm a whole day off. Saturday evening, Saturday Night Live. So we are just chilling out tonight after my football team lost again. Took 6 supers off. All right, let's go. Let's get it. There's Todd. Todd's there. Randy's there. Jan, DC, Mike. Randy, Russell, Tritone, who I always forget your name, Hope, Tom, Amir, Michael Tangway. So hopefully everyone is well this evening. Yep, found the daughter. Took a while, but we found her. So we found her. She was just out with her boyfriend and didn't hear, supposedly. So, hey, Pastor Larry, good to see you. Lee, I saw them test rooms you got going on in there. Talked to Lee earlier today. He was at work all day. That's no bueno. Well, as you can see up there, link is posted, ready for y'all. Didn't do much around here today, really. Might be another day like that as well tomorrow. So, centering boxes on the wall with the cam. I almost popped in. I almost popped in there on you. Let's see. Hey, Russell. Hey, Brian, 1 market down, 1 to go. Got to jar some more honey tonight. Wow. You must be selling the heck out of it. I've been slack. That's what I've been when it comes to honey, especially creamed honey that I've been saying I'm going to make that I haven't even started, but I'm going to eventually get it going. Had some people contact me to see if I was going to be home tomorrow. So they're probably going to come tomorrow and buy some honey. Oh, it's the Loma Vista King.
Hey.
What's going on?
Man, you scared the heck out of me today.
Today?
I sent you a text like at 6:30 this morning and never heard from you.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
Text or Facebook Messenger?
Text.
Yeah,
let me make sure.
Use that drunk text you sent somebody else.
No,
it was at 9:43 a.m.
Yeah. And I'm like, uh-oh, I didn't hear anything, so I'm like, oh, crap.
Man, I didn't answer anybody today.
Well, I
apologize for that.
I was wondering, how things were going over there after.
Yeah, we found I did drive over there, and she was not at the house. And then I tried to find a police officer around there. Of course, they won't tell you nothing. I'm like, well, could you tell me where you took the victims, right? So I'll just call the hospital, and then they could verify if she was there or not, and then that would have just quelled everything. But no, they can't tell you that, or they send you to somebody's voicemail that's got to answer you back, right? And it's like, well, that's no good. So I finally just called 911. It was like, look, it's not necessarily an emergency, but it's an emergency to me, So, it was about 2:00 in the morning when I came home and went back to bed. So, all these HIPAA regulations and all of that stuff. I almost said regulations, but other than that, I mean, and then, of course, because I was out so late, I was sleeping in. And then woke up to one of my sisters coming over to see my mom unannounced. So that so it's just been going. Then I'm sitting here and there's a motorcycle pulls in my yard. So I'm thinking somebody wants honey, and it's another guy I haven't talked to in years. So it's just
been one of those days.
Yep. Then had to go to the grocery store before dinner before I could watch my football game, and then then took an old man nap, and here we are.
Well, I'm glad everything worked out, or didn't work out, however you want to say.
Yeah, even, she has a Ring doorbell, so I left the Ring message on there. So I'm like, well, she'll get the Ring doorbell message for sure. That's going to come through the phone. No, she just fell asleep and had the phone on silent at her boyfriend's house. I was like, okay, well, good. As long as you're all right, that's the main thing. Then I put down a law in our group. I said, first of all, no babies die before me. That's the law. There's no getting around it.
Yeah.
And they said, fair enough. So what'd you do today?
Well, I put my second round of ape guard on. Okay. And then I started cleaning up around the house. Then I took a 30-minute power nap, and then cooked dinner. That's been about it.
That's it.
My game starts at 7:30. Fresno State's playing Arizona State in Arizona. So
look, I got a hard copy of said law documents.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling a story. Here it is in black and white and whatever.
Yeah.
All funny games till someone loses an eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that whole story, man. I for the love of God, I don't understand why big company. There's other swarm lures on the market.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was telling you. How many premium bourbons or premium tequilas are there in the world?
Right.
So what's the difference? Swarm lure, bourbon, tequila, it doesn't matter.
They got, let's see, in swarm lure, swarm science, they got a swarm wrangler. How do I know? Because I was going to be swarm wrangler to begin with.
Yeah.
Then swarm rustler is me. And, so there's a bunch of them. But why me? Because I'm local and you got to mess with me? I don't know.
I think since the other product doesn't have a trademark, I find that very fascinating that any paperwork was started up to begin with. But hey, that's just me.
I think it's a stall tactic to buy them time.
Yeah, no, and a scare tactic to have you drop out. That's what it is.
And Hope's right. And swarm trooper.
Oh yeah.
A trooper is closer to a commander than than is a rustler. So I don't know, but whatever. We're gonna, I guess, let the man in the black robe figure it out.
So in the meantime, you don't have to.
No, it's just a cease and desist. They're saying if I don't stop, they're gonna take me to court, and I'm saying, and now I'm saying, I'm not gonna stop, so take me to court. So that's it's gonna be interesting.
What would your legal well, I doubt it would go to court, but if it did, would your lawyer have to be there virtually, or how would that work?
Well, he's gonna, if that comes, well, first of all, trademark is a federal thing, not a state thing. So is copyright. So all that is trade, but because he's in California, he would be my general counsel, and then we'd have to find a local guy to represent in court. But
I'm sure he would do that. He'd find somebody
and hope that it doesn't get that far. But we'll see. We're gonna let it roll.
Yeah, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
I don't know. I mean, if people are confused, they're not that confused because he way outsells me. You know what I mean? So.
It is what it is. But I mean, again, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. So I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever floats his boat, I guess. If that's going to keep him afloat, stick his chest out, then hey, whatever.
Well, I mean, what he has done is he's just ostracized me from buying anything else from them. I mean, well, not swarm lure, obviously, but
bees.
Other products, yeah. So it's and now he doesn't have a honey supplier because he was buying all his honey from me. So I don't know what he's gonna do. His personal honey that his wife eats
His wife's mad at him.
was my honey, right? So
yeah.
the only one confused is him, Russell says. So yeah.
Hey, so before I was checking the inside of my eyelids today, I saw like a score update of South Carolina and Georgia, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, we were winning 14-3 at halftime, and then they came out and scored 21 unanswered, and ended up winning 24-14. Just couldn't move the ball. I mean, at all. I don't know what happened in the second quarter. No rushing game. The leading rusher was our quarterback. You know, it's like, but I don't know if you take sacks out of that, probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was a bad game. Started off good, ended up bad. But hey, at least they were respectful score-wise.
Yeah, you made a showing. That's good. You know, or your team did. So
if there's a moral victory in football, that would be it. You know, nobody expected them to win, so it's like, oh, well, they played a close game, and it's all right. But it is what it is. My university doesn't have a football team, so I can't say anything. They got a basketball team and a baseball team that does very well. Division II, though, so
yeah.
That's what it is.
That's all right.
But I'm surprised Charlie's not on here yet. Or I try to do these a little bit later, specifically for you guys out there on the West Coast. Because I know when we go at 8 o'clock, it's only 5 o'clock where you're at when we start, right?
I'm usually driving home from work, and if I have it on my phone, I listen to it when I'm driving home.
He was listening. Old man sitting in the background listening, saying, well, Bob will call for me when it's time to come in, and we can talk about some single brood chamber management.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that right now. I'll probably break into it in April, but not right now.
Well, Charlie, did you go to the thing today you were talking about?
Yeah, the life celebration thing. Yeah, it was nice and everything. Seeing a bunch of people I knew and everything, and all that. So got that done over with. So went out to the bees today and put a few pollen patties on, a couple of small hives and stuff like that.
You put pollen patties on?
Yeah, a little bit, some pieces.
I can't. There's no way. Not here.
I don't know. They're the global ones. I put them on, on these growing hives and stuff, and it was 60 degrees here at 8 o'clock, or no, 7:30 this morning, and actually like 59. And then I don't know. My car said it got to like 81 or something like that today, and right now it's 62.
Jeez.
It's 69 here right now. It is cooling down for sure.
I'll give you
I put that Formic Pro on there because it was cooling down for the next 5 days or more for the whole week.
Got y'all beat. It's 88 here.
Look who we got. Jose.
Hey.
What's going on?
I've been meaning to call you, Jose.
Hey, Jose.
Is Ian here too? I saw somebody said, hey, Ian, but I didn't see him comment.
I didn't see him.
He's in the background somewhere. Y'all been missing it. He's been popping in pretty regular lately.
Yeah, he was on my channel last night. It was really really nice to have Ian stop in.
It kind of takes the conversations like to that next level there. I like all of our chats, whether it's about bees or not, just whatever it's about. But when we start talking bees and we've got Ian in there, it just is, for some reason, it just gets a little more in depth, and a little more comical because start joking around. But it's definitely a different feel to the conversation sometimes. And then, you know, Brad, when you got Brad and all you guys in there, just different.
Brad cracks me up. Yeah, that guy is funny.
Brad and I forget what it was that Alex said, or I said something to Alex, or Alex said something.
That was last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Brad and I just lost it. We just got the giggles and couldn't stop laughing. And I don't remember what it exactly was now.
It was something he was building those quilt boxes or something, but there was a comment around that. And I can't remember either.
Yeah, it was a joke. It was just the
that was funny.
Oh, I know what it was.
Didn't you? Someone
he
did
said Yukon. He said Yukon, right? And I said, well, in English, that's the Yukon, right? Not Yukon. And Brad started laughing, and I saw him laughing, and that made me giggle. And anyway, that
was funny. But I thought you did that in like a French accent or something.
Yeah. It was hilarious. I found it hilarious, which doesn't make it funny. It just makes it funny to me, right? Charlie didn't catch it last night, I don't think, but Brad,
I caught it.
Brad catches everything like that. So
he does. He even throws in the Chevy sidebar jokes too every once in a while. I got to be in my toes when I'm listening to him.
I seen on Facebook where Tim Bailey, he's the Boone County beekeeper out there in West Virginia. He fell and messed his knee up, and then he didn't say nothing to nobody. He went to the doctor and everything was fine, or they thought maybe some infection or whatever got in there, but later on a blood clot or two went to his lungs.
Ooh.
So they were getting trouble breathing there. Now he's on blood thinners and he's in a local hospital out there. So shout out to him and prayers for him to get out of the hospital and everything.
So Jose says, talk about Pollen Sub. What are you using and why? What are your challenges using it? Do you slap pollen and treatment at the same time? Why or why not? That's an easy question for me to answer, so I will answer first. No Pollen Sub, because the hive beetles, and that lets me treat at the same time, so there's no issue there for me.
I've just got about 4 little small hives that I'm trying to boost up before the winter hits, and I am treating with Formic right now, and I put a little piece of pollen on there. They've been taking it. The pollen around here hasn't been really coming in. The goldenrod is just starting to bloom. A little bit I have around the farm, and I've been driving around and I'm starting to see it bloom. We've had some rain finally, and it's made it pop. So that's what I've been doing. And I normally never feed pollen in the fall, but I figured, well, try it. I've seen Ian and Brad doing it up there, and I put a little strips in, little small things, and they did eat it. They gobbled it down. I actually had more success. Of course, it was.
And you're using Global, Patty.
I'm using Global with Apis Biologic in it. I bought 10 pounds of it this January at Hive Life, and to try it. And I'm not a big we have lots of pollen in our area. So like come springtime, if you don't put it in there in February, after that, come closer to March, there's pollen stuff, things that produce pollen it's starting to produce, and they won't even bother with it. Now, about 3 or 4 years ago, it seemed like pollen production wasn't out there, and they were just, I was using Man Lake stuff. I went through a 40-pound box of pollen patties. They would gobble it up in a pound in a week. And then ever since then, it's like, nothing to it,
Well, I've got the Ultra Bee, but if I put pollen out, I'm just putting it in my tube feeder and letting them take back what they need.
I have that too, and I've done that in the past. And the other thing I found is that they pack it away in the frames, and to me, they ruin the frames, because they pack it everywhere. Maybe I'm feeding him too much. I don't mind having a frame or two of it in the hive, but
now
I've been using Ultra Bee for a long time, and usually what I do this time of year is I put it in my just that pipe feeder. I've got a gigantic wasp nest in there right now, so I'll be knocking that out. But I have a lot of pollen coming in. I was staring at it today, yellow, orange.
Usually right now I have a lot of goldenrod, around behind the buildings and stuff. It's just starting to start. And usually as soon as that hits, they're not going to go for substitute. They're going for that pollen. And,
now, what about the treatment and pollen patty at the same time?
I don't do that.
So what's the difference if they've got it in their frames or with your treatment, or if
I put it in right now, they've already got pollen coming in the door. They're not really going to pay too much attention to that. Their main focus is getting Apigard out of the hive. And then, I don't know if the pollen patty will start smelling like Apigard and they take that out too. So I'm going to wait. I have one more treatment round next weekend, and then I'm going to see what the pollen looks like coming in. And then I make I have a secret recipe that I make pollen patties with. I'll start thawing them out and then slapping them on.
Well, how else will you propagate your hive beetle colony if you don't put patties on right now?
I don't have one of those. I thought I might have had one. But
I've got hive beetle colonies that coexist with beetles. I mean, with bees, honeybees. So.
Yeah. Now Darren's up there, and he says the goldenrod's in, and the asters, and I'm like, you might. I mean, if you put I always had a 5-gallon bucket and just put a pound or two of pollen sub powder form. But you can put that out in front of them hives out there. If there's no pollen coming in, they're on it. If there is natural pollen coming in, they might have 10 bees on it. So I would say Darren, where he's up in Pennsylvania at State College, I wouldn't even waste my time. If they can get the natural stuff is way better than man-made stuff. Yeah,
I agree. But my treatment,
and it's also money being spent.
Got about 2 weeks left on my Apigard. Apivar. It's not No Mite Monday, so I guess we could talk mites.
I don't know. Like I say, I put the Formic Pro in because the heat finally took a nosedive, and it's
See, I could put it in now, but
it's as safe as possible.
You're safe as a kitten.
Huh?
You're safe as a kitten with it right now.
Yeah,
I don't know about this because I don't have any Apame hives. So I know I've seen some in that Texas friendly beekeepers. They seem to be all about some Apame hives over there, but I still see people saying they're getting slime outs and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know if those bottom boards. I know that my licensed bottom boards, they're screened, but they don't have a wide enough screen for beetles to fall out of.
Mm-hmm.
How are those traps working, or those pans?
Last time I checked the metal tray, it's pretty full. I got to put some more oil in it and
clean them out.
Yeah, and I need to check the other ones too. So that's on the list for tomorrow, and clean my work truck because
Are you doing the Swiffer sheets on top too?
No, once I took those Swiffers off, when I put the bottom boards in, I didn't put any more Swiffers on. So, but what I will say is the ones that I've pulled the top off of that have the traps in it, I don't see beetles on the frames running around anymore. So
that's good.
Yeah, that's a good sign. So every time I go in, smash, smash, smash if I see some, and just try to knock them down.
And anybody out there that's keeping score on Mr. Junebug, he still hasn't moved. He's still there.
He's dead though, right?
Oh yeah, he's dead as a doornail. I'm surprised they haven't encapsulated him yet.
Are you trying to wait to see if they totally cover him up?
Yeah, I want to see if they do that.
I guess it was Friday morning. It was 60 degrees, and I was putting the Formic Pros in my 10 framers, and I pulled one of the telly covers off. Here's this, I mean, no bigger than that frog on the darn air cover. And I was like, how did you get up in there?
I get those little tree frogs that'll be hanging around.
I mean, it wasn't no bigger than about a quarter, maybe a size of a quarter or something like that. I just kind of flicked him off into the grass and said, have a nice day.
I'll tell you what, the hair on my neck stood up on me this morning. Here I was putting the ApiGuard on there, and I had the nitro gloves on instead of my leather gloves. And the reason why I use the leather glove is because of the black widows. So here I am grabbing the lids off. You know, I have migratory tops. I grab them off. And I went to this one box, and I put my right hand down there, and that was in the center part of the pallet, and I felt something on my glove. And then a kind of a squish. And I didn't know what it was. Well, then I pick up the lid, and here's this monster black widow that I half squished. And she's just sitting there like staring at my finger. I'm thinking, oh, crap, man, I flung that thing. She must have flew about 30 feet out into the trees. But man, after that, the hair on my neck stood up for, it had to be 10 minutes. I mean, I do not like those things. That's as close as I've been to one since I got bit when I was a kid. So.
I've seen them here, but usually I see them before I encounter. It's the ones you don't see that you got to worry about, right?
Yeah, I know. It was my fault. I just started grabbing lids. I should have grabbed it a different way, but I sure did that the rest of the day though. And they're monstrous too. They're let me think. Their butts are bigger than a marble. I mean, she was full of eggs and ready to drop an egg sack. But yeah, it's enough for me. I don't like those things at all.
No, I didn't see that. So I didn't see Fred Dunn's chat. It said that apparently microplastics are being found in the bees and in the honey from Swiffer sheets.
Uh-oh. How does that happen?
What's that? What are microplastics? The threads from the Swiffer sheets?
I guess they get stuck on the bees, and then the bees do some more work, and it ends up getting in the honey somehow. Brian says he's got 1 yard that he has to watch for rattlesnakes.
Ooh. That's like Jose.
Let me see. I was trying to, we talked about this. No, is that it? No, that's not it. Shoot. I was, how shaking the bees out and letting them walk up. Thought I had that on this phone, but I don't apparently, as far as shaking them in. I did send Brad a thing saying we are live, of course. And Professor Dunn every Friday. That's why you missed the good chats over here on ours. Last night you missed Ian Stepler over on Charlie's channel.
You mean Fred Dunn is what he's talking about?
Yeah, Fred Dunn.
I find him, I guess if you're an absolute beginner, I guess he's all right.
I mean, he talks about a lot of stuff. I just, and I mean, it's good stuff sometimes, but it's just that for me, it's the monotone of the voice that I just can't get past.
Yeah, that kind of kills me, and it's sort of that.
Instead of Fred Dunn, it should have been Fred Rogers because he's kind of got that Mr. Rogers thing. But yeah. I mean, nice guy. I mean,
I've met him. I seen him in person down at Hive Life. He seemed to be nice.
Yeah, nice
guy. I like his sense of humor.
Now, see, I've only seen that a couple of times. He's got the sarcastic humor like I do.
Yeah.
I would like to be in a room with him for like an hour, just going back and forth with sarcasm.
Well,
Yeah.
he was a Navy guy, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So we got that. We got that. That's like we practiced that for 4 years straight. So Jim says he strapped all his hives in preparation for Hurricane Lee. So got it a bit, but it's tracking 30 miles east right now. So that's good.
Oh, west.
Where's Jim at? Up in north?
Yeah, got to be up north.
It's all past us. Past us.
So Mir says refillable Swiffer pads are made from polyester. So, 30 miles west.
Well, I wonder what those pads are that I use for that extended release method.
Tampax.
Well, I bet they're made out of polyester or plastic shreds or something.
Oh, New Brunswick, NB. New Brunswick. Oh, shoot. Is that going to hit Apis Biologics? Maybe I should have ordered more.
Oh, no.
That's where they're at up there.
No activator?
No. Oh, but it's coming, though, because he did send the... I did get a notification. Should be here Wednesday.
Oh, okay, good.
Which is weird because it seems to be getting here faster than the last one that was express. So I don't know.
The biggest thing I got my package, Bob, of the biocontrol, but I'm like, don't you think you ought to take and up, kind of change your label here as far as make it a little bit of English friendly? Instead of everything metric.
I've tried.
Yeah, I think he was on the chat here, and then people told him put a spoon in there for measuring. Number one. Number two, have English and metric measurements on there on how to put it in the, how to measure it out to whatever your volume is of sugar water.
Well, it appears that one package is good for a tote, right? Or wait a minute, no.
No, it's 1,000 liters. It goes for a tote, which is 275 gallons.
Right, that's a tote, right? The big one's for a tote, and the little one is for a 50 gallons, right? For 50 gallon container like you got.
Well, my container's a 40 gallon, so.
But you don't mix up that much at one time anyway, right?
Yeah, I do. I mix up 40-gallon batches.
Well, you need to take 10 8-ounce teaspoons out of there.
What it is I've already figured it. Me and Bob figured it out, and I refigured it out because I had it written down someplace and I couldn't find it. It's 1 tablespoon per 40 gallons.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's helpful. Thanks, Charlie.
So yeah,
that's what I'm going to be making my batches.
It's 1 tablespoon. And because I sat down here and figured out how much a tablespoon was in grams, and it comes out to like the big package is 7.
I got your activator.
7 point such and 7 point whatever tablespoons, a little over. See it a little over, a little under. It's not 8 tablespoons.
Hey, speaking of which,
Bob,
Jose, if you're still watching, Jose, here's enough to make your pollen patties with.
Hey, Bob, I don't have enough hive beetles. I can't order that.
It's the same size pack as my Florida Labs there. I'll be right back, guys.
10 pounds of
Y'all run the show. I'll be right back.
All right. But I won. Johnny was on, what was it? Were they on the Tim and Hannah show? I went and tried, and I won the biocontrol.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the 25, the 50 gallon package.
Yeah.
And it's 22.7 grams. And the way I think I calculated it out, it came out to 1 tablespoon and a little bit more, not quite 2.
Yeah.
Well, it says 52 gallons, so it's 1 tablespoon and just a little bit more. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I can dump the rest of that into this big package, and maybe I'll get 8 tablespoons out of it for let's see, 320 gallons, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
So Anyway,
if I have problems with metrics, I'll just I call it Canadian math, and I'll send Brad a message and have him figure it out for me.
now, Robin, I put one pad on the Formic Pro on the 5-frame nuke double stack. That's all I put. I take a satchel, open it up, and rip those two pieces. One satchel does 2 hives. That's what I did last year. It worked fine. It seems to be working fine right now. Only problem is I've been going through these hives, as I pulled like the April, I've been working on a video. I've been trying to, it's about 20 some minutes long. And I'm thinking people don't want to sit there watching me going through all that. So I'm trying to pare it down to about 15 minutes or so. And I've got a hive there that I've looked at. I looked at it today while it's good sunshine. There ain't a bit of, there's some cat brood in there, and there ain't a bit of larvae or eggs or anything. Can't find a queen nowhere. And I'm like, where the hell's all these damn queens going to? I got that one, and there's another one there that's it's just a single 5-frame that she's laying, but it's like I don't think they'll be strong enough to to be able to make it through the winter. I'm not going to have 5 over 5. I can tell you that right now. I think it's just about
what? Charlie freeze up?
Oh no, I was listening to Brian there. Thanks for the warming cabinet video tip. Okay. Yeah, that's what I just took a refrigerator and put a light bulb with the Inkbird controller.
And that one regular incondenser.
No, that's a white heat lamp. It's a white heat lamp in one fixture. One of them. It's kind of like when you have a heat lamp for chickens and stuff. A warming light with a clamp on the end.
Yeah.
And I got that at Home Depot along with the light and the ink. I could have got it all at Amazon, but I was looking at how much it would draw and stuff in the fixture. And so I got the Inkbird controller. I keep the refrigerator at about 105 degrees, but that keeps the honey about 90 inside the bucket.
Mm.
The atmosphere in there is 105 degrees.
The ambient temperature.
Huh?
The ambient temperature.
All right, whatever they call it. I got 2 buckets down on. I took all the shelving out except for that little, the shelf you always have the little meat drawer, that you put your lunch meat in and stuff. I left that in there and I lay that light up on there. I should have a fan circulating the heat, but I don't. And I put 2 buckets on the floor of the refrigerator. And then I put another bucket on top of a bucket. Now, what I found is, of course, heat rises, and the top bucket sitting up higher up in the air is the one that really keeps it's non-crystallized all the way to the bottom of the bucket. Now, the other 2 buckets are non-crystallized, but they might have a quarter to maybe a half in there if you took it right out of there and dug down in there. But what I do is I take the top bucket off, put that in my bottling tank. I take the bucket that's been in there and I bring a new bucket in, slide everything over, and then raise the bottom bucket from the bottom up on top. So that one's ready to go. Because I'm putting the bucket in every 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, every once a month.
That little Fiat would hold. I mean, I got a whole hive stand in there, right? Like a 6 foot long or 8 foot long hive stand in that Fiat that I had. We had that till 3 months ago, however long before we got the Bronco, we had that one. And yeah, I mean, it would haul stuff in, and my wife would get mad because it would have like sawdust in it and all the way. And then I bought my truck, my first truck. So, but yeah, I used to haul everything in there. I was channeling my inner Alex, but I never hauled honey in it. Never.
Now Russell talks about 150 watt ceramic bulb. I think that's like a reptile bulb.
Lee uses a 250 watt.
Hmm. What's
Lisa
that?
uses a 250-watt lamp.
Hope he uses like a Charlie uses like a floodlight. The heat
I
lamp.
don't know. Hope. I don't know what. I guess mine is 125 watt. I do know this. If you go to Home Depot and you buy the red one, for most people, like for chickens or whatever, they're cost more than a white one. And I think it's probably it's at least, I think it's 125 watt. I know it's not 250.
Well, they got to dip it in the red.
I don't think they dip it. They must colorize the glass.
Yeah.
It's a white light. It's just, works for me. That's all you need.
I'm curious. Do you think you could get that warming box up to 100? Get where you could get the honey to 140 degrees?
I've had it up. I found that if you set it at 95 degrees or 100 degrees for your controller, you'll still get, it won't let the honey get solid, but it'll be like applesauce in there. It's really chunky crystals. So I found that, to decrystallize, you got to put it up to 110 degrees in the atmosphere, and that'll decrystallize pretty much. But because I'm keeping that honey in that warming box for a month or so, I figured I'd back it off a little bit to where I was checking like the top, like I was saying, the bucket that's sitting on top of the bucket, that's the one that gets the hottest because the hot air is up top. And when I pulled them buckets out, I would probe them with a thermometer, and they were like 95, 98 degrees. And I'm like, that's a little too high. I don't want to.
But it's not hot enough to discolor the honey or anything.
No, but I figured, what was it? Bob Benny talked about all that, about how the duration of the heat starts to deteriorate the
honey
enzymes and all that kind of stuff.
I was thinking about doing that to warm up buckets to make some creamed honey, 5-gallon buckets, but I don't know. Maybe Brian could say on here what he did to get it up to temp.
Well, he's got a bottling tank, so
when he first started.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I had issues before I had this cabinet built, or before I took the refrigerator and modified it, is that my stuff would get really chunky and bad. And it would have to be a day to where I was here to watch it all the time. And I would take it, my mother's canner, and it had a lattice work of wood in the bottom, so the water could go underneath the bottom of that bucket. And I'd put that bucket in there and then pour that thing full of 3 or 4 gallons of water, come up to the side of the bucket, then it's a gas stove, turn the gas on. And I'm trying to monitor the heat of the temperature of the water and the honey. And I think the water would get up to 150 some degrees or more, maybe 200 degrees. But the honey was I would make sure it never got up past 100 degrees. But it took about an hour. And then I finally found a nice big long wooden spoon to sit there and stir that every 10 minutes to bring that chunky stuff up. And it finally thinned out. It thinned out great, but then I got tired of all that. And that's when I got a bottling tank and to alleviate some of that problem. And then I got the hot box and made that. A guy had a refrigerator that, just find one. All you're looking for is the refrigerator, is the insulation factor, or you can make your own.
Charlie had to go out to the wagon and pull the big block of ice off to come melt it into water. And then once that heated up, then he could take it off the fire. And
actually, what I did was I went out to the wood pile and had to get some wood for the cook stove and put that in there, and then put the pot on the eye over the fire, and then I could heat all that, you see.
Hey, have you guys ever,
well, I'll tell you one. Go ahead. Yeah.
You reminded me of something. This guy, I forgot his name, but he's like a cowboy cook, and he has YouTube videos. He's been at Branson or Silver Dollar City doing his seminars and stuff. Everywhere.
Right. Hey, Steve.
He would make cowboy coffee with the old cowboy pots. And what he would do is he'd pour like a couple cups of grounds just straight into the pot after the the water is boiling. And then he'd let it boil for a little bit. Then he'd pull it off the fire a little, and then he would start pouring cold water around the inside walls of the pot, and then also the spout. And what it does, that cold water gathers the grounds and drops them suddenly to the bottom. So then you're able to just pour coffee without the grounds floating.
I often wondered how they did that.
But the thing is it takes a lot of the acid out of the coffee. So, it's not going to affect you that much. Apparently it takes some of the kick out of the caffeine when the acid goes up. So
I don't know. I can tell you one thing. If you have biscuits coming out of a wood-fired home comfort stove and all that, and food, I don't know. My father used to talk about it, and I've had food that come out of them, and
yeah,
I guess it's a different type of heat.
Yeah,
and it's not so much there's no smoke that gets in there because it's in a firebox, but that food tastes 10 times better than anything, than a gas stove, electric stove, or any modern stove.
Maybe it's that cast iron they're cooking in.
Yeah, it's a cast iron skillet.
Yeah, but I think it's a fire. It has a more intense heat or something. Maybe, I don't know, but it makes the food taste a whole lot better. What's Robert doing today?
Not much. I've spent most of the day in the bee yard again today. So 3rd time this week.
Heck yeah. That's 3 times more than I've been.
Watch out.
Other than feeding.
Better watch out. It's going to become a full-time job.
Robert, you missed it last night. Ian stopped in.
Yeah, I seen the video today. I binge watched some of your stuff there, Charlie, the last few days.
Oh yeah, find anything interesting?
I mean, I try to take something from everybody. I'm going to give you grief, though, because in your video you said you hadn't been in those 2 hives for 3 weeks, and you gave me grief for not being in my hives for 3 weeks. So
yeah, but I knew what those, I knew where they were at.
But now
the third week I was checking food stores, make sure there was enough food in there. But so what have you found in your hives?
Well, I went through and made sure every one of the 40 or I don't know my exact number. I haven't counted them, but
yeah.
I was at 46. I lost 6 hives or colonies over the last couple of weeks.
Right.
But I had 40 production colonies, and then I had like 6 swarms that I caught back in June. And so they were pretty big, actually, because I've been kind of equalizing them as well. So the combination, anyway, long story short, I lost 6 due to 2 hive beetle problems, and then 4, I don't know, queen list or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But what I'm getting at is the 40 that you got. I mean, how are they looking? Is it there? Is it
good.
Population good? Is the food good?
They are looking better now that I've been feeding, because I started feeding whatever it was last week, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was a couple.
And yeah, they are starting to pack on the food. Now, granted, they have a long ways to go. They are way behind last year.
In population.
Population and feed. But, the funny thing is I did have one of my colonies swarm last week, which I can't even believe that. I mean, it's September. There was no food on them, and they still swarmed.
Or was that? Or
swarm or an abscon?
Was there a beetle in there?
I think I had told you where I had a swarm that died, and it was a really big colony, and it got taken over by hive beetles, and I just took the whole box and dumped it out on the ground, not thinking about it. And where those 6 swarms are, they're right by where those beetles were dumped, which is right on a low creek line. in on the side of the bean field, right on the side of the creek, and the beetle population is insane. Which I've never had beetles before ever. I mean, back before, I dumped those guys back in July. And at that time, when I harvested my supers, I found 2 hive beetles total in 40 colonies. I've probably killed 1,000 beetles in those 4 or 5 hives in the last week. And
I would it sound like to me, I don't know. I mean, I guess you put Grub-X or something down there to try to help control that problem.
yeah, I'm going to spray. I'm ordering this. I seen a gentleman online that had a recommendation for something, so I'm going to try that. It's basically the liquid version of Grub-X, but I'm going to try putting that.
Yeah. I seen somebody had that. I forget who. I seen that too. It was
But I've done the Swifters.
$80 some for a bottle of that stuff, but it did.
Yeah.
It was liquefied.
Yep. But the Swiffer sheets have done nothing. There's like maybe a dozen beetles in total, and the beetle traps on some hives there's 100 beetles in the bottom, and others there's no beetles in them. So I don't understand the math behind that. But
I've heard a lot of people talk about them things, and they found exactly what you're talking about, and most of them sort of.
And then once you take them out of the colony, there's nowhere that you can set it because it's like a triangle. So it's like, now what do I do with this without everything running out of it? So there's a pain in the ass.
So the funny thing is the beetle jail, I think is what they call them. I was laughing that all the beetles were underneath the beetle trap, not in the beetle trap. When I would lift up the beetle trap, there was probably 20 of them underneath it.
Now I watched what's her name? Butts Bees. She's down in Mississippi. And she had the throwaway type that you're talking about, right? The black ones.
Yep.
And she said now she put diatomaceous earth in there instead of the oil.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first thing she said, now what you do is you take your hive tool and you drag that thing across the top of that thing and smash he said they'll be up underneath there and you will smash them. And she showed, I'll say 20 beetles underneath that darn thing that were dead because she smashed them before she lifted that thing up.
There were no beetles in half the traps, but there was 20 of them underneath the lid or underneath the
trap,
the trap,
the wing or whatever it is.
And that's where you're really killing more of them is underneath the edge of them than in the trap.
What I was doing, all mine are on the bottom board for the most part. So what I've been doing is just going through. That's why I've killed about 1,000 this week. But I've been picking up the box and just smashing them, playing Hive Tool Challenge there, and just mashing them everywhere. But it's an endless job, right? I mean, the thing is, I will say, I feel like they're not getting worse; they're getting better. But I don't, the bees aren't doing anything to them, and my traps and Swiffers aren't doing anything really. It's really my hive tool that's doing all the work. And so there's 1,000 less beetles, but I don't know. I mean, unless I go out there every day and smash beetles, which I'm not going to do.
Right. I don't know. I think you have to get that spray and work on the ground, I guess.
Brad, you had me laughing last night. Evidently, I had you laughing, which made you make me laugh. When I was ribbing Alex about the Yukon. I said, well, in English, that's the Yukon. And we just started crying. I saw Brad chuckling down in the bottom, and it made me laugh. And I had to just put my head down because
that's a whole English-French thing in Canada.
Was it last night or the night before when you were joking? You were saying that there was only 2.5 Canadians on the screen because he was.
Yeah, that was last night. Because Alex was there.
Yeah,
2.5. We didn't go over the three limit there.
Here's another one. So I was binge watching videos this week, and I noticed that Todd and a lot of these other guys were on the Fat Bee Man show a couple times there.
Long, three years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the only thing.
Hasn't he quit completely? I kind of looked around and it looked like to me he hadn't been on there for several years.
I don't know, but it was crazy. Like there must have been 20 people on his show.
Did you see my COVID mustache? I had the same Elliot going.
But you know, I thought it was hilarious. We had. I won't. I shouldn't say it. Never mind.
But
yeah, you had 20. They used to do Zoom, right? Zoom streams, and it was.
He's actually put out a video or two the last couple of months.
Well, I know Todd was on with Greg and Brian.
Yeah.
They're making the rounds again. All the videos are cycling back through because I'm seeing stuff that said that even Barnyard Bees' stuff is starting to cycle back, like on that annual basis. And now it's like, oh, 1 year ago or 2 years ago, this came up, you know. And
hey, you guys were talking about beetles a minute ago, and I don't have, knock on wood, really a beetle problem, but my problem are moths. And Ian came out with that video last week about Sertan. Oh, so I go, and then I saw somebody else doing it. I thought,
yeah, I mean that's been out for a year or so.
Yeah. Well,
now, I mean, actually, here in the United States, they lost the EPA. I'll say EPA certification. Whoever brought it across, I thought it was made in Canada. And is that right, Brad? Or Sertan? Anyway,
I don't know if it's made.
I don't know. If somebody, I'm going to say Daydant.
Texas Bee Supply sells it.
Yeah, but Daydant was the one who went back and paid the bucks in order to get it approved again to be able to use it in the United States, and it's been out for about a year.
Have you ever noticed?
That's my problem. I looked it up. I started researching it down there at the bottom. Cannot be sold in the state of California. So Comrade Newsom and his team are not allowing that product in this state.
Well, it causes cancer.
Let me go back to the. Let me go back
in California.
In California,
California, it's the only state.
Let me go grab another product for you.
Have you ever noticed how, especially like Facebook and Google and all those, when you talk about something, you start seeing the ads in your stream. You don't have to type it in. You say something and it just suddenly starts appearing in your feeds. And it was funny because a couple of weeks ago, I came on, I mentioned the solar melter that I made and how I made it with paint trays.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, I have had like 6 videos pop up into my YouTube stream of a solar wax melter with the paint tray. It's crazy. Like you talk about it and then all of a sudden you just start getting video feeds.
See, that doesn't work for me. I tested that theory and I would say I'd walk around the house because I have an Alexa and my iPhone. I'd start talking about, gee, I wonder what next week's winning lottery numbers are going to be.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
That didn't work for you?
No, I'm pissed.
Oh. Works for everybody else.
I'll let you win the lawsuit bingo. You can take mine.
Oh, man.
Ian asked me about it through Facebook Messenger, right? And he says, "What's this?" And I explained to him and showed him everything. He says his comment was, "That's horse shit."
Yeah, it is.
I was like, "Yeah, I think so too." So
he found himself in an outhouse without any toilet paper. That's where he's at right now.
So we're gonna let it roll.
That guy, that's so funny.
It is
okay, Brad.
So better be Daydant.
This is what you want to buy.
What is that?
What is?
It's a bag of something.
Centauri?
Okay. Is that
like
a video game or something?
No, that's Sertan. That's the cheap side of Sertan.
Wait, how do you spell that?
X
Ah,
XANTARI with a capital X and a capital T.
Yeah, put it in front of your face.
What is it?
Sertan.
Biological insecticide.
No, what is it for?
Wax moth.
Wax moth.
Kill.
Oh,
Now this is a powder. You got to mix it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it applied?
one tablespoon per quart.
Oh,
Spray bottle. Shake well. Mix up. Spray it on the
You need
frames.
to spray it on the comb.
not
And
allowed in
it
To
California.
wet.
It doesn't-
Air dry
it doesn't
before storing.
kill wax moth. It kills larvae.
Yeah, it kills the larvae.
Oh,
But
it kills the
for
larvae.
like 6 months.
The other one though doesn't. It's not a.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice.
He's donating to the legal fund.
Yeah.
No, the other one it just protects the cones. It's like a prophylactic treatment.
Well, it does. It's the same principle. It kills the larvae.
Well, I was under the. I thought it just protects the comb from even getting infested, and it said somewhere in the label that it's not a treatment. It won't kill. It'll only keep away. The Sertan or Sertan, whatever.
Yeah, Sertan.
But if this kills the larva, that's even better.
See if you get it to your local.
It's $25 online for that bag that you got right there.
But will they ship it into this state? That's
Probably not.
Probably not. Oh well.
Just order from Amazon.
Yeah.
Biological insecticide, caterpillar pest control. The world's only biological insecticide containing a natural, potent strain of microorganism Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies. Okay.
Well, thanks, Charlie. I'll try it.
Yeah, I got it from one of these organic farms that sells stuff like that. I forget.
If the Russell's if the larvae eat Sertan, they get an ulcer and die.
Ooh.
It's a nematode treatment.
Ooh.
So that's the whole goal. Just take that to California. We spray it on there, and the wax moths get cancer and die. Not human cancer, wax moth cancer.
Yeah, don't say that. Next thing you know, they'll slap a sticker on it, and it's not for sale in California.
Centauri. Yeah, it's $25. That's what it looks like. There's a bunch of places online.
Yeah, here it is. How much was it? You say 20? Yes. All right, here's $25. Go to the number. The address is 7springsfarm.com, and that's the number 7 and then springsfarm.com.
Centauri DF, right?
Centauri BTDF, Bicyclius, something another, whatever. BTA is a biological insecticide use agent.
DF stands for dry flowable. Thanks, Robert. I see that David versus Goliath fun there. Let me see. They listen to all we say. No Alexa for me in my house. Yeah, they have the same ingredients, right? That's the two.
As far as I know. But anyway, that's where I got it.
Okay.
I haven't used it, but
Dry.
I never really wanted to do that. I just I was running out of.
So if you just spray that on your frames and put them up, that'll take them to spring.
Yeah, you must let them dry before you store them away.
So that would be worth it for $25 to treat. I mean, I don't know. Will $25 do all your frames though? Because I know it.
I'll put it to you this way. It says here 1 teaspoon per quart.
And then what bag size?
Huh?
What bag size?
Bag size here. This bag is 1 pound. 454 grams.
Oh, that's plenty. I'm gonna have to store only probably 100.
I've seen some folks like they'll store their honey frames, I guess it is. They kind of have racks and they kind of put them in the top of the barn where the light can get to them and all that stuff and all that. And but Sertan, I talked to Lloyd. It was somebody, oh, this is all new and blah, blah, blah. And he says, no, it's not. It was here 50 years ago. We used to use it. Spray the darn combs, and that was the end of it. Now, I've had some other people say they sprayed the combs and it didn't work. So I don't know. I would say it's like anything else. You got to put them in a storage area that's dry and not dark and moist or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, last year I just stored mine in my garage, and I didn't have any issues with them. But it gets cooler here starting in September, right? So
yeah,
do the moths die in the or not whatever?
Well, the moth is going to go more after the brood comb where the cocoons are to get the protein out of it.
Sure, but I mean, even that, like I get brood in my honey supers, but maybe last year because I used honey or queen excluders, maybe I didn't get nearly as much because I had queen. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, I probably didn't get any because last year I put queen excluders on before I put my honey supers on. I didn't even let her come up into the supers and lay. So yeah, I probably didn't. Yeah. I mean, I know I had a little bit, but not. I probably didn't have hardly any.
Well, if you had a situation where, let's say, she got up there by mistake or whatever, she laid, then that comb is going to have that protein in there, and that's going to attract the wax moth, even though it's a honey super.
Yeah, I have a lot this year. Last year I only had probably out of whatever 70 or 60 boxes or whatever. I probably only had I don't know 5 boxes that had brood in just a little bit. This year, about all of it has brood in it somewhere.
Well, if you spray the frames, I find when I usually get wax moths is when I have like a dead out and I don't get to it before I realize it's a dead out. Then I get moths, right?
Yeah. It's like DC. You can buy, if you got a bunch of frames like that and you got boxes upon boxes upon boxes, I would say it'd be better off with paramoth crystals.
Well, Todd said that you were buying them from Walmart last year, right? And they were $4 and something, and this year they were $14 and something.
Yeah. The crystals have gone up. They've tripled, easily tripled.
Well, that was like the rings that I bought last year. Like you said, it has it's moth things for where you hang them in your closet or whatever. It's the right chemical and all that. It's not naphthalene, it's the other. And but I looked them up on Amazon, and you're right. I mean, they went from like $2 a piece to like $12 a piece. I'm like, what?
I know. But Walmart doesn't even have it on the shelf anymore. So I don't know what the heck's going on.
I mean, the same thing's similar with sugar. I mean, sugar last year when I bought bags was $17.99. This year's $24 or $26 something. So
2 years ago, I was paying $8 for a 25-pound bag. So crazy.
The only thing I find about
sugar prices, Walmart, 2019. 33 cents a pound.
Yeah.
2020, 39 cents a pound. That was a 10-pound bag. 21, 25-pound bag was, it jumped up to 50 cents a pound.
That's 66.
And then Lancaster, let's see, the restaurant store in 21, I got it for 50 cents a pound. And then July of 22 is 56 cents a pound at Walmart. And I guess the same year was 62 cents. And then this year it's 66 cents. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I haven't looked at it lately, but it's.
I'm getting tired of just. I mean, when I had 12 hives and then 24 hives, it wasn't bad doing the half-gallon jars. But this year with 46 colonies, putting jars on them, it's not so fun anymore. And I'm just mixing up. I'm taking boiling water, putting it into 5-gallon buckets, and then mixing the 5-gallon buckets basically in my driveway. And then I'm doing those as heavy as concentration as I can. And then I take it out to the field and then I mix in the water, the bulk water in the field. But it's still a pain in the ass. And I've got to figure out a better method. And I'm going to call a couple liquid sucrose companies Monday and see if I can get a 250-gallon tote, because it's just not worth messing with anymore.
And I know it's a little bit warmer here, but I go outside, I put sugar in a 5-gallon pail, and I spray it with my garden hose. And then I carry those around to my colonies and I literally take the jar off, unscrew it, dunk the whole thing, and it goes bloop, and the air pops out, and I put the lid back on.
The difference is, Bob, it's the concentration, because if you're doing that with 1-to-1 or less, it's not a problem. But when you go to 2-to-1, all this sugar settles to the bottom, and it blocks the holes in the lids. Anything under 1-to-1 and under, I don't have that problem. But once I get to 2-to-1, if I don't boil the water and mix it heavily, I tend to get the sugar blocking the holes in the jars.
I never feed 2-to-1.
Robert, let it sit overnight. Mix it up, let it sit overnight, and then fill your jars.
Okay.
Because then anything is going to precipitate will precipitate in your tank instead of in your jar. I deal with that all the time. That's just the solution. I'll mix my tote and I let it sit till the next day, because I don't even use hot water. I'm trying to go to gallons now. Got about 40 gallons of hot water that I can use, but I put about I think I put about 80 gallons total, so it's not really that hot by the time I've got put the sugar in. So I can't get a real high ratio, maybe 1.8. But I'll mix it up, let it sit overnight, then I serve it up in my pails and jars, and I don't have that problem. If I serve it right away, then I have that problem.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely try that then, because that's my biggest problem.
Because it'll precipitate, and then you can see, and then the good thing is you can kind of see how much too much sugar did you put in, and you can kind of fine tune that over time. That sugar will dissolve again. That's not a problem.
All right, Robert. I want you to go to Jared Beekeeping tomorrow. Jared Beekeeping. He's put out his last video where he's got a hot water heater. He made
I've seen that.
Seen the guy with
in the
plastic tank in the basement, and he made it swirl around.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for me, because my bees are off. They're a couple miles from my house in each direction.
Yeah, but you're gonna mix it there at your house, right?
So right now what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm taking 100 pounds of sugar and splitting it between 3 5-gallon buckets roughly. And then I put the sugar in first, and then I boil the water and get it as hot as I can, obviously boil. And then I dump it into the 3 buckets, and that gets me enough that where I can mix it, and it's probably 3-to-1 or something. I don't know what
You're talking about mixing it in the field with the hot water in the field.
No, I'm taking the 3 5-gallon buckets here at the house, and I'm boiling water, and I'm putting the 100 pounds of sugar into those 3 buckets first. I pour off the volume of boiled water into those 3 buckets. It allows me to mix it out, so it's about 3-to-1, roughly, and then I take it out to the field, and then I take. By that point, it's cooled down and it's completely dissolved, and then I just
1.5 to 1.
What's that?
It's more like 1.5 to 1.
Yeah,
or something. I don't know.
You're not going to do 3-to-1. I'll guarantee you're not going to do 3-to-1.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, Jarrett or Robert, is that you can, I have sort of the same setup in a way, but one thing is I got a burner underneath my tank that I made up, and I'm mixing 40 gallons. Now, is it true 2-to-1? No, it's not. It's a little bit lighter than 2-to-1 because of my diaphragm pump on my tank won't pump that thick stuff. And what I was getting at is he mixed it in his basement there, and it had that hose going out with a thing where you could mix it there with the good hot water, mix a big volume of it, let's say 40, 50 gallons of it. And then you could, if you had 40 gallons, you'd have, you could pour or have it pump it into all your different buckets, and it would be in bucket form. And then you can take it out there to the hives or whatever, either using top hive feeders or jars or whatever. If you're still using the jars, you can fill them up with the hose with the with that.
I'm at the point where I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm definitely not doing jars next year. I have them. I'm going to use what I have this year to get through, but I
did the same thing you did. I had 6 hives, and I'm sitting there for 4 hours a night, sitting on the stove. I'm cooking the sugar water on the stove, and then I would pour it into the 5-gallon buckets, and I'd have, let's say, 6 buckets full of sugar water. And I'd go out there with top hive. I had top hive feeders is what I chose. And I would pour, each feeder would hold, they were the licensed like Bob Scott, the brown ones, for 10 frame. And they would hold, let's say, 1.5 gallon, gallon and 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
And, you go out there and go boom, 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 boom. And now you got a bunch of empty buckets, and you got to start all over again the next night because those top hive feeders are going to be sucked dry by the time you get back.
Right now, I've been out 3 times this week, so I've put on a 1/2 gallon 3 times this week.
Yeah, now, they'll suck it down.
It's still spread out around the hive, so I can't really tell how much nectar whatever they've got, stores they've got yet. But it's spread pretty thin. I mean, there's not, even though they've got 1.5 gallons in that hive, they couldn't even fill 1 frame with the 1.5 gallons they have in there.
Whether you're using jars, buckets, or whatever, I think you should step up to a 55-gallon drum with a trolling motor. Because
something like that. Get your volume
I'm
up.
Going liquid. I'm convinced that I'm going liquid. I'm going to find a company that can sell me 250 gallons.
I think you're going to have to find a middleman that's going to sell you 250 gallons. They're not interested in the small guys. They drive tankers for a reason, and that's to drop them somewhere.
Well, I mean, it's the same exact company Bob's using. I just got to get the right guy on the phone. I mean,
I don't know. I live at Domino Sugar. It's right down in the middle of Baltimore City, and they're not going to. Like you say, you got to know somebody to get in there, I presume. But the only thing I can tell you is you'll have to all roads lead to Nature's Zimmer Farm if you want to buy Pro Sweet. But I don't know what that stuff is. That stuff is expensive.
For what it's worth. If you're mixing sugar syrup, my opinion is. What are you mixing? 5-gallon pail and a paint mixer or something like that?
Yeah, actually, it's a Harbor Freight, and they had this giant paddle, which was pretty
Yeah,
nice.
that's fine. It doesn't matter at all what you're mixing it
Mhm.
with. So just kind of get the picture of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter where you buy it, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. You've got a drill, and you got something on the end of a drill, and it's making a swirling motion in a pail, right? So, put your sugar in a pail, fill it up to whatever level you want that pail to be full of syrup. Okay. And I think boiling water is a complete waste of your time and energy. At the best, use hot water out of the garden hose, right? Hot tap water. Get your stirring machine, stir the thing, and put the water in it as you're stirring it. And as you stir it, the level of that sugar will go down. And as you keep stirring it, bring the level of the liquid back up to the same level that you put sugar in the pail in the first place. And that's going to be as bang on 2-to-1 as you're going to get that you need. I would still recommend let that sit overnight. And then you're not going to have problems with precipitate in your pails or jars. Okay. I think it was Todd said, if you're going to mix that kind of volume, mix it in a 45-gallon drum. I agree completely. The common system that some guys use guys call it a sump pump. It's not a sump pump. You're not going to use a sump pump to mix 2-to-1 syrup.
It's a trash pump.
You have to have at least a sewage pump. Kind of looks like a sump pump, but it's 5 times as good as a sump pump, because even that'll overheat and shut off on you because it's really hard to move this stuff. And you can make one of those systems that just pumps it up and then over and back down into the tank. Excuse me.
Bless you.
See, I'm going to go with
and you can also then tee that off with a valve, and it'll shoot out into a hose. You can fill your whatever you're filling with that. It's super easy, super convenient. I used that for quite a while. I just needed more syrup than I could make with that thing and keep up to my my needs. So that's just my comments. That's all. Just some ideas.
I drilled a 2-inch hole in the bottom of mine. Put a ball valve in there with the bulkhead on the inside. Boom, you're done. So whether I'm doing buckets or bottles, I could just hold it under that. And I've got the barrel up on blocks, so I have plenty of room underneath if I want to put a bucket. And you just turn it on, crank it up, do whatever.
If you're bothering to build a thing where you're agitating with a sewage pump, all you need is a T and another fitting, and you got your serving hose. Right. So because you got power anyway.
The only problem I have as far as I can't take a tank to my hives because they're out along a bean field, and I only have a.
But you're not doing that now, and you won't have to do that if you make a mixing tank.
I'm just saying, like, whatever I do, I still can't take like a trailer. Like, I want to put it in a tote in some manner, but I'm still going to have to bucket it to the hives somehow because I can throw them in the back of the gate, in the back of the Kubota, but I can't trailer per se. Unless I buy a dedicated trailer, I can't trailer it out to the hive.
Yeah, but what we're saying is get your mixing.
I don't think anything I described would really require that.
I'm not saying that.
Fill your pails at home like you are now.
Yeah, whatever I end up doing, I'm just saying whatever I end up doing, it's going to have to end up, lack of better, bucketed out unless I find some kind of I'm not talking about the mixing side of it. I'm talking about the distribution of it. When it comes down to the distribution of it, unless I buy a dedicated trailer, I'm still gonna have to do buckets, but I don't want to have to do that. But the other option is to do something like what Charlie was talking about a minute ago, where I do a 2-gallon hive top feeder or something I don't know. I have to figure it out.
Robert,
how far are you having to carry it from your truck or trailer to the hives now?
Well, once I put it in the back of the Kubota, I can pull it right up beside the hives. It's literally within three.
You got a side by side Kubota, right? With like a little bed in the back end of it.
Yeah. My buddy that owns the farm, he lets me use his Kubota, and the hives are about 300 yards from a driveway, basically. So it's a hike if I need to go out there without the Kubota, it's a hike out there.
Well, I mean, you could mix it in a 55-gallon drum. If you got 40 colonies you're putting a gallon on, I mean, just mix 40 gallons of syrup. And then it's empty when you come back, and you can chuck it off your trailer. Next time you go out.
I had this year, I peaked at like 72 colonies. If I had to feed, well, I have tons of buckets on hand. But what I do is I'll fill up those buckets, load them on the back of my pickup, drive down the road, and then I carry, 2 in each hand and put them on top of the hives, turn them over, boop. What's the saying, Brad? Bob's your uncle. And that's it.
Bob's your uncle.
So, do
you have migratory lids, or do you have telly?
Yep.
You got migratory?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you don't want top hive feeders. You want to kind of go towards what the commercial guys are doing with these buckets.
That's what I do. I drill the 2-inch hole in the top of my migratory cover, and I throw a bucket feeder on top.
50 millimeters.
Right now, I'm using the 1 gallon, but I'll probably end up going a 2-gallon bucket.
Well,
and
Dan
that's
and
what
Brad do all that time.
Nice thing is now your syrup transport vessel is now your feeding vessel. Once you fill that thing at your wherever you're mixing your syrup, once you fill that thing, done. It just goes to the hive. You're not.
So you're saying buy, lack of better, a truck full of 2-gallon hive top buckets, so that way I can just load them in the back of the truck.
Correct. You don't need a trailer yet. I mean, eventually.
My preferred method.
Yeah,
I've got a whack of 2.5 gallons. I got a whack of gallon.
It would be the same thing as that Jarrett guy, where he filled 50 of those 1-gallon buckets, because I guess he's mixing 50 gallons in that tank. Filled them, put them in the back of his pickup truck, and now of course he drove his truck probably out to where his hives are. Where you could transfer those buckets into that toy or 4-wheeler, into the back end of that bed, and haul them out there and put them on top, and you're done.
Sometimes I do jars. If I need to just kind of give a little feed, kind of a splash them off, I save the case boxes that the mason jars come in. And so when I fill up those bottles underneath the spout on my tank, I put them right back in the case. I pick up the case from my truck. But I caution you on the 1-gallon buckets, you have to make sure those things are full to the top. Because if you don't, you're going to have a vacuum leak, and who knows how long it takes for the vacuum to catch up. And by then you're drenching bees.
Yeah. One thing that I found helps with the vacuum, whether you fill it all the way or halfway, before you flip it upside down, if you take your thumbs and push in on that lid and then flip it and let go with your thumbs, it helps create a better vacuum faster.
Yeah. I used to use a kind of an extra bucket, and I would set the pail halfway on the hive, and I'd push on the bottom of it, squirt some out into the pail, so that I'm not losing that syrup, and then put it on.
You know what I like about the jars is that they take them down so quickly. I don't have to worry about wasting sugar syrup.
You can see what's going on.
Yeah,
and they're not flexible either.
Nope.
Bob, up until I bought the half-gallon jars, I was putting on 2 quarts on every hive. So they would take, my point of that is they would take a half-gallon down in hours, versus if you put a half-gallon jar on there, it would take them a day, but they could have in like 4 or 5 hours, they'd have 2 quarts down.
Well, I was putting on quarts, and they were taking them down quick, and some of them still are, but now they're starting to take them down a little bit slower. But some of the ones that were taking them down fast, I said, oh, well, I'm going to put these 2-gallon pails on that I have, and they've been on for 3 or 4 days, and they haven't gotten them all the way down yet. So,
and another. Oh, go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and some of my top hive feeders, they emptied them real quick, and then all of a sudden the brakes slammed on, and now I've got old syrup sitting in there I'm going to have to throw out, So,
well, Brad and Ian both mentioned that the other day. They would take the first 2 or 2.5 gallons right away, and then they said they would take whatever 2 or 3 times as long for the second one, right, Brad?
That has a lot to do with our weather, though. In warmer weather, they're going to be able to cure that a lot faster. Cooler weather, they can't cure it as fast, so therefore it fills the hive faster, and it stays full in the hive faster, because when they cure it, it shrinks down, eh?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you'll have to look out for with the plastic feeder buckets, depending on what your temperature fluctuation is, overnight temps versus day temps, that can cause it to leak faster also.
We
you
talked
got
about that tonight.
expansion.
I've thought heavily about, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. I just know it's Roger or Rogers. I don't know. I'll remember it one of these days. But the guy that uses the plastic bags. I've thought heavily about that because
Mark Miller uses them too.
Mark Miller uses those.
It's just it. I mean, it really just comes down to having a lot of waste, which sucks. But the upfront cost is fractional, and
except you can't reuse them, and you're going to be throwing them out, so it's a reoccurring cost then.
But you don't have that. You don't have to worry about the dripping on the bees, though. That's the other plus to them, right?
It's not really that much unless you have wild temperature swings in a week or two when you're feeding. But when you're tipping those things over and for them to catch the vacuum, yeah, they're gonna get a little extra splash in there. But eventually, it's okay. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the buckets, if you do go to the buckets, and maybe even if you do jars, let's say you have 50 hives, buy 100 buckets. Because what you're going to do is you could go out to the yard and check your bees and check the buckets. If the buckets are empty, you know how many you need to go back home and fill up. You go back home, fill them up. You switch the buckets. If you only had 50 buckets, you're going to have to take them off, fill them up, bring them back.
Yeah. If you can't serve it at the hive, you need spare buckets. I mean, at least a few. If you have 50, maybe you 25, and then you go do half, and then you bring them back or something. That 100 feet of hose that I bought really helped me out a lot. And I know that's not an option for you in this scenario, Robert, but just saying that helped me out a lot, because I take one, I take one extra pail, I'll fill it up, swap it out on the hive, fill that one out, swap it out on the hive, and I just walk around the apiary doing that. It's far fewer steps for me, and I know that's not what you're doing, but it just
I watched a guy. He made a little cart he took a spray cart. He like from Tractor Supply. He took a boom. The boom spray carts. Does that make sense? He took the boom off of there and just cut the hose and put on the filler valve, and then I could do that. I could pull it right behind the Kubota. I could bring it right up beside the hives.
Well, that's what my tank was a sprayer tank. It's got the pump built on it, and it had a sprayer nozzle. I cut the sprayer nozzle off, and then I put a 1/4 turn valve on there with a handle and a little 6-inch or 8-inch pipe with a 90-degree nipple, or whatever they call that, elbow. And now I've got, I just turn it, in line with the hose, and the pump kicks on because it's it's powered by the truck. And I pump off into my top high feeders. Now you're going to do buckets because you have a different setup.
Now, if I was actually to go to, for example, the liquid if I was able to get the liquid sucrose, which I'm not saying I can, but if I could, and if I was I could technically drive down to Man Lake if it was cost effective and fill a IBC tote and bring it back. But I can store a 50-gallon drum or a tote at both of my facilities because they're both on a farm. And so I can store the toad at either facility. So if I had that little trailer, I could definitely fill it at each one, or fill it and take it to each one. So it's an option. It's just I got to get to that point.
All right, I got to jump off. I'll be back.
All right, Charlie.
See you, Charlie.
Need the bees to start paying the rent. That's all.
Yeah, you have to be watchful of that toad spoiling on you too, though.
Well, they said that Charlie says that or Bob, I said it doesn't.
I've never had any of mine go bad, and I've had it sitting in 5-gallon buckets for months.
Really?
Yeah, and Charlie said he's had it for like 2 years.
Charlie's got Pro Suite.
Well, Charlie does, but Robert, are you going to get Pro Suite or just?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I had to, if it was cost effective, I would drive down to Man Lake and pick it up. But I don't see it being cost effective unless I was going that direction.
Kentucky. Well, they got it somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's 6 hours. It's 6 hours from me. Well, it's
round trip or one way.
It's 4.5 each way, but
wow.
When I drove down this summer, it took 6 hours because of the construction, and they had a bunch of construction down there. But it's only 4.5 hours by Google.
I haven't even driven the hour and a half to go get me some more. I've been buying sugar. The benefit of buying the sugar is I don't have to spend as much at one time, but it's just a matter of being, unloading my truck and going up there and getting it.
I do have a short little update. We were talking, remember that queen issue, Brad? Where I had 3 yellow dot queens, and I had a colony that's swarming or wanted to swarm, and I took the queens and I put them into those 3 yellow dot hives. The one they killed, I told you about, the one killed or they tore down the cell in one of the yellow dots, so she's still there laying, and then the other 2. They've requeened, and she's mated and laying. So I got lucky. Those 2 are laying, but the original one that swarmed or was swarming, I can't find a queen in there. So it's ironic. The only one, but I will say there's still queen cells in there. So I think the ones that I moved they had hatched that day. But where I was going with the story though is, so the one that was going to swarm, the original colony that had like 16 swarm cells, they still have 4 swarm cells in there that they haven't hatched or emerged. So they're going to emerge any minute because they've had to have been in there for almost capped for over 10 days.
So they have some emerged cells and not others?
Yeah, so they had every frame, 4 or 5 frames in that box out of 8 had queen cells, and every one of them had multiple. There was at least 16. So what I did is I knocked down all but 2 on 4 different frames, and I took those 2 and put them one into each one of the red queen or the yellow dot queens, and then I left 1 frame in there. I actually left 4 cells on that one, the one that was going to swarm. And but I noticed when I was knocking down some of them, they were very young, and some of them were older. And so the ones I gave the other queens or the other colonies they merged like the next day, because I went back 2 days later to pull them out, and they were already hatched or emerged. The ones that are in the original swarm colony, they've not emerged yet. But regardless, the 3 yellow dot queens is where I was going with this. One of them they tore down, and she's still there. The other 2 they've requeened, and she's laying. But here's the weird thing: they have created a swarm cell from her eggs, and she's only been laying for 3 days, something like that.
Procedure cell.
Probably a supersedure cell.
But she's only been laying for 3 days. Like how the hell?
Well, they don't like her.
Yeah,
they do that. They'll make a queen, and if she's shitty queen, then they'll just make another queen out of her first offspring. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah. So I knocked them down today. I'm like,
Quite
well, you're
often
going-
when a swarm swarms, they leave with an old queen. They
Mhm.
find a new home. As soon as the old bag starts laying, they're going to make a new queen and kill her. You know, they're ruthless that way. And
But
if
yeah,
you
I
have a
couldn't believe it.
cell
She's,
if you have a cell that's existing alongside cells that have emerged, I'd submit that those cells are dead.
no, they were aged. The colony was going to swarm because I knocked down probably 2 or 3 on every frame. And the first frame I pulled out, the larvas were mostly developed, and the ones as I went over on the frames, they were just goo. They weren't even, they were just you couldn't even see the larva. So much royal jelly in there. So no, they're just a week apart for some reason. I don't know why they're a week apart or more, maybe 10 days apart, but that's just what they are. But like I said, it was the damnedest thing when a freshly mated queen, and she's only been laying less than 5 days, and probably 3 days, and they've already charged 2 queen cells. They weren't capped.
Meritocracy, man. Prove yourself, or you're out of here.
Yeah, they weren't capped or anything,
Exactly
but
what they
they
do.
already had larvae and royal jelly in 2 cells.
Yep.
Crazy. But I assume they'll tear those down, right? Typically, if she starts laying and they're happy, I would assume that.
Hey, Ian. The old bag starts laying.
It's a gin talking.
You got the Kraken tonight, huh?
No. Gin, man.
Tangeray.
Angry.
I thought about it. I couldn't find any Fresca. I was like, I'm going to get some Fresca to try this magic potion.
He hit the jackpot on Fresca.
And it's Tanqueray is a Q, not a G.
Tanqueray.
Tangeray.
As
Well,
in,
you call them too.
It's Yukon.
Well, that's part of my problem tonight. I got 2 empty bottles now.
There we go. Try to keep up.
It'll be a
Kenny.
long night.
I go for a third.
Yeah.
Hey, I ain't got to work tomorrow finally, so enjoy it.
But yeah, anyway, so I'm pretty happy though. The 3 out of 4 have requeened or have queens and are, at least as long as everything stays the course, we should be good. I was kind of worried that those 3 would kill the original yellow dots, and then I'd end up losing those colonies because they wouldn't be able to requeen. But they've managed to make it through.
Well, like you said, I mean, they may know better. Well, they do know better than we know, but they may know that she ain't going to do the best job. So they're trying to replace her now before it's too late. Now, do you still have a lot of drones in your area?
With the couple of the colonies I lost, they were drone layers. So yeah, they produced, those 2 colonies produced enough drones, I guess. That's the benefit of having a failed queen in another box, right? You got plenty of drones.
Hey, Lee, we had our names on the bottom of the screen, and you took them off when you came in or something. I don't know.
I had it off in the that test room I was doing, but I hadn't changed nothing since I've been in. But there they are, just in case.
Okay.
It's Hurricane Lee, or is that storm? I don't know.
I hadn't checked. I know it was a hurricane, wasn't it?
It was at one time.
I don't know what it's down to or up to now.
I think I misunderstood you.
Oh, he said he would cut those queen cells that Robert was talking about and combine.
I thought about that today actually, because when I was in there, but the crazy thing is I found some larvae in there, but I couldn't find a queen. So I don't know if they ever swarmed or if she's still in there somewhere.
She's in there. I've done that a lot. I'll go out there as long as I see eggs and larvae. I don't even necessarily look for her. I mean, she's been in there.
Well,
right?
Now,
I actively looked for her today and I couldn't find her, but
Do
she
you use smoke when you go in?
yeah, but she has a larva that's 3 days old, so she's got to be still there, I would think. But I didn't find any eggs. But the colony's still large, so I don't think they swarm. I did have a
Sometimes you'll
colony
have
swarm though, but it wasn't them. So, which is once again September. They're not supposed to swarm in September, but it should
I
happen.
usually find if I'm going in purposely looking for the queen for a reason, I try not to use any smoke. Because the more smoke you use, a lot of times they'll run and lay on the bottom of the box. So every frame you pick up, she's not going to be there.
Ian says walk away from the hive and check back in 2 weeks. That's always what I've heard. Just give them 2 more weeks, come back out. It'll either all be capped with nothing else in there, or there'll be eggs and larvae.
Be laid up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So overall, pretty good. I mean, it was like I said, I'm down from 46 to like 40 now, but the nukes or swarms, whatever you want to call them, they're pretty big now. So they're almost full size colonies. I do have one of the 40 though. I don't think it's going to make it through. And then here's a funny, to me it's funny, but I have 4 or 3 hives or 3 colonies, sorry, that I have on family's property that wanted some bees. And I manage them and stuff. They're mine and I take care of and everything. But I went out there. I hadn't been out there forever. I'm really bad about taking care of those hives because I don't really care if they, no offense, but I don't care if they live or die. You know, like they're there for the family, for their pollination, and makes them feel good. And I give them some honey, and I don't even collect honey out of those boxes. I just leave them. One of those colonies is my biggest and best colony out of every colony I have. They are slam full of, because I haven't taken any honey. They're wall to wall honey, pollen everywhere. I mean, it's crazy. If you look at that hive, it's beautiful. Like it's got the perfect, the rainbow of pollen, or brood pollen and honey on every frame. There's 16 frames in there, and every single one of them is exactly the same. I mean, it's a perfect hive. And
so what is different about that hive? What have you done differently with that hive than you've done with?
I haven't even been in that hive since June. That's what I'm doing right. I'm not touching it. I'm keeping me
you
out.
Didn't equalize it. You didn't swap any frames, nothing off of that colony. You just let it go.
Right. I didn't touch it. I haven't even been out there. Like I said, I don't harvest it. I went out to treat it today. And maybe even terrible about treating it. Like all my other hives, I treated in the spring. I didn't treat them in the spring. I went out today and just did some OA. But it's funny though. It's like the hive I treated the shittiest and just didn't even pay any attention to it. And it turns out it's my best colony.
Well, I have a saying that I've said several times. Maybe you have heard it. Maybe you haven't heard it. That the #1 killer of bees in America is the beekeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I ruin more colonies by doing stuff that I'm kind of maybe not so sure of, or I've watched a video on, than, and not on purpose, obviously, right? But it's like just stuff, right? Like they know what they need, and if we alter what they like, equalization, if we're taking stuff constantly from them, we're robbing a really good hive and giving it to maybe not such a good hive, and we can't determine if that's a bad hive if we keep giving them stuff to support them. So once the honey flows,
I feel there's a balance. I feel there's a lot of truth in that, Bob. But I also feel there's a balance. I don't think it's a black and white thing. I think that's why. Like I think that's why we do what we do. It's just that we need to know when to stop advancing on them, right?
Well, like
because
I said,
we do a lot for them to improve their production, their virility, and their chance of survival, and their all this kind of stuff. But we have to know when kind of enough is enough, and that's the trick, really, isn't it? that we need to know when to step back. We need to know when to stop being helpful.
Well,
right.
on that colony that we're talking about, so in May, I think it was like the end of May, I took I split in half, basically, not quite. I took it's a horizontal hive, and so there's 2 colonies in one box, and it's a 4-foot long box roughly, and there's 16 frames on each side, and the I requeened that colony. It was going to swarm, and so I took I took Mama, put her in a box, took her up to another site, and I knocked down a couple some of the other cells, and then I split some of those cells into the other side of the box. Blah blah blah. Anyway, that's the last time I was in that colony was since when I requeened them. So that's like the last week of May or something like that. So I haven't been in there since then, but taken no honey from them. I've taken nothing from them, and they are just wall to wall bees, and just slam honey, nectar, or pollen. I mean, it's a beautiful looking hive, but yeah, just gotta get me out of the way. But they were split though. I mean, I split them and I requeened them this year, and they were requeened last year as well. So
Cheers.
I do somewhat manage them. I just don't take any honey from them. It's just it's too much of they're deep frames and everything. All my honey supers are mediums. It's just
Right
I don't
on,
know, I
Bob.
don't want to deal with it.
That's all
That'll
you
do
could?
it. Come on,
Whole jar.
get serious.
Okay.
Hey, you got to
There we
mix
go.
50-50 now.
A little more. Don't
Watch
spill
out
any
for
of
the
that, man.
keyboard. I mean, man, you douse the keyboard.
1-to-1.
Yeah,
1-to-1 mix.
Go ahead and go 2-to-1. It's fall.
Go 2-to-1, man. It's after 10 o'clock. Go 2-to-1.
I'm trying to figure out
Lee,
how big this bottle is.
that's a 175.
2 liters.
Oh no,
175?
that's not.
Hey, Brad, if you have a colony that's going backwards right now, do you just shake them out?
Sorry. You know what? I'm tired and I've had a little bit of gin, so I'm going to just back up what I was going to say and say yes.
No, please. What were you going to say?
Well, it's not good for mixed company. Absolutely yes.
Hey,
Okay.
Why would I bother with
colony,
anything else? Why would I bother with anything else? Like what? Really. And this is rhetorical, right? And I have to ask myself this kind of thing all the time when I see stuff going on. Like, for example, I'll give you a good example. I think is a good example. Probably 3 weeks ago, I would find a colony. I'm pulling honey, and I'd find a colony. I'd pull the honey and I'd pull the queen excluder and I take a quick look and I think, crap, there's no queen in there. And then I got options, right? First of September, maybe late August even. And I got options because I got 100 nukes on the side of the apiary here that I made with brand new, beautiful queens. Nice little nukes, going nice, right? So I can go over there. I can cage that queen, stop her laying for, maybe 4 or 5 days. Put her in this big, mean, pissy old colony that doesn't have a queen. And have probably about a 80 to 90% chance of her being accepted and start laying. Or I could leave her where she is. Right? She's laying in a nice nuke. Her bees love her. Chances are they're going to build up for winter just fine. They'll come out of winter. Nice healthy queen. Nice little nuke. Grow into something productive for next year. This is my season and this is my progression of what happens here. This doesn't work for everybody. It's not the right season for everybody. Obviously, you have time to make queens. I'm long past that. I have time to make queens. So then I have to make that choice. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to take a sure thing, which is this nice little nuke that she's in, and make it a a risky thing and try and requeen this old production colony, what am I saving? I have no more honey flow. If this was 1st of July, if this was middle June, I might say, I'm going to go get that queen, make sure I don't lose momentum on this nice big production colony, so they're going to still make me a honey crop. Right now, they have no potential. They're going to do nothing for me. They're going to do, the only thing they're going to do for me is eat a whole bunch of syrup, a whole bunch of treatments, a whole bunch of patties. They're going to use up space in my shed. They're going to frustrate me when they're dead in the spring. Right? So these are the tough decisions to say, look, you're done. I have no more interest in you because you've failed and you have nothing to offer me at this point.
They just
Now, if
got
I
more
were to have,
scholarship.
what's that?
No more scholarship for those
No more
girls.
scholarship. It's a total meritocracy, right? If you're not valuable, you are out of here. If I
Yes,
had, if I had a pocket full of mated queens in cages, absolutely, I'd be requeening that. I might be busting it up in a couple nukes and say, hey, I got a ton of bees here. They've collected all this pollen. They've even got some honey and maybe even some syrup if I've been feeding them. If I'm pulling honey, they're not going to have syrup, but they might have a lot of resource on board and a whack of bees. They got nothing to do. If I got a bunch of mated queens in my pocket for some reason, maybe I can go out to the store and I could buy some mated queens. I just choose not to do that because I don't need to right now. I got enough. Then I could maybe do something with that. Or maybe I would do something with that because I can. I always have that option. But that's kind of my thought process from end to end on that kind of thing. And there's a point where you just say, nope.
Well, this colony
You're
was
done.
full production colony, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and they must have swarmed in the last week or two. Matter of fact, it had to be last week, and because their size is down. I mean, I won't say it's half, but it's considerably less. And she's still laying, but I don't understand. No other colonies regressed like that. Everybody else has gotten bigger, if anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody's probably dropped a little bit percentage wise across the entire apiary, but per hive, if you were comparing her to her sisters down the row, she has done less than they have. She has went back further than they have. I don't know if it was because of a swarm. I don't know if she's just failing. I don't know, but I'm just worried about taking her into the winter because she's just not, like I said, I had 40 equal hives. I made sure that.
Well, don't worry about taking her into the winter because winter will solve that problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have to worry at all about taking this kind of crap into the winter because winter will solve that problem for you.
Well, I was
You
thinking about
don't have
shaking
to
her
worry
bees
about
out
that
in
at all.
the other boxes and just being done with her. And then I don't have to fill it full of, like you said, I don't have to put syrup and I don't have to put treatments on it because
Sure.
I just,
Sure. If I count up the syrup, the patties, the treatments, all of the things that I'm going to put into these colonies, there's about $40 a colony. Think about that.
Yep.
How many have I culled? How many colonies have I culled in the last 2 to 3 weeks? Probably about 25, right?
The other thing I would look at,
$1,000. That's $1,000 I just saved myself by making that tough decision and saying, "Look, you're out of here." That's $1,000 in my pocket.
And then it's easier.
Other thing I would look at in it, I mean, how many resources do they have left in that hive? Do they have pretty decent stores? Just a small colony?
None of my colonies really have stores. The only stores they have is what I've fed them in the last week. I put on, like I said, a gallon and a half in the last week of 2 to 1. So the only stores they have is I've provided, and they have a mile to go. Like every one of those hives, I mean, I'm going to be another 5 weeks of this, a gallon a week, before they're ready for winter. I mean, they're bringing some in from the environment. We still have things going on, So they are bringing in something, but it's minimal. They're eating it as fast as they're extracting.
When did all of this start? When did this very little groceries coming into the front door start?
That was me, I think, because I pull my harvest on the 4th of July weekend, and I'm done for the year. I let them keep everything past the 4th of July. This year, I had that such a low harvest, 4th of July weekend. It was abominable. And so I went ahead and they filled the supers back up. But remember, like 2 weeks later, they filled them all right back up instantly. So I went ahead and re-extracted that.
Well,
And then they had that dearth and they didn't bring anything in.
but
And
you weren't feeding at that time when they had a dearth, right?
correct. I wasn't feeding them and I took their stores. And so I think I did starve them a little bit.
They went backwards on you, and now you're paying the price.
Yep.
So
And now I'm trying to play catch up.
You need to. Well, I don't know if you could play catch up at this point. I don't know if that'd do you any good, but you need to. This winter, you need to do timing. You need to take pen and paper this winter, and you go, okay, this is my deadline for picking out honey, and then this coincides when you're going to start going into a dearth, and then you got to get your butt out there, and you got to make sure that they're fed up because you're going to go backwards again, and you're going to keep doing it.
This year was different than every other year because we don't get a nectar flow typically in the second week of July. That just doesn't happen. I had a nectar flow between the second week of July and the 1st of August. It was the bean crop. The bean fields produced. And the thing is they normally don't bloom that late. Matter of fact, the farmer was telling me he was holding off spraying and he couldn't wait any longer because he was almost a month further in his spray than he normally would be because he was holding off for the bees. He didn't want to spray while there was flowers on the honey or on the beans. And so that's not normal. We don't normally get that delayed weather like that.
So you usually save the beans for their food stores for basically the rest of fall or that time period. Is it that big? I'm not sure.
I don't know what sources they get their stores from, but in the past years, half their stores come from what they harvest between the 4th of July and September or whatever. And so normally I'm only feeding them half as much. Like I'm maybe only putting 2 gallons on each one. That's why the quart jars have never been a problem because I've only put a couple gallons. This year, I've got to put in 6 gallons of feed on each one of them, which I have time. I have until the Halloween. We don't get our first frost. I mean, our first real frost until Halloween.
Sorry, I didn't mean to walk on you there, Todd.
Oh, I'm just going to say you just need to put it in your mind, I'm not taking this. And you need to set yourself a deadline. Like for me, example for me is this year we've had a lot of rain. It's been a different season for me, just like you. I would love to take the blue curl off those hives. But I know when I do, I've got to instantly feed. I have not fed yet. I'm in uncharted waters. I went and looked at them today when I did my Apigard treatments. I could smell it when I open the lids. It smells like Camphophenique, and I see white wax, and they're doing awesome. But I'm not going to touch it. That's theirs because I know when I do, I better replace it with sugar right away. And
that's what I was going to say. You got, like you said, you got to watch the weather and read everything. If you're getting ready to pull honey and you hadn't had rain or whatever your weather conditions may be, if you're going to pull that honey and that weather ain't right for whatever source they normally would get right after you pull, as soon as you pull, you got to put honey on or sugar water or whatever you're putting that day or the next day.
There are
or
two
they're
things.
Going to starve.
Yeah, and there are two things that I learned It took me a little while to learn because I was trying to do it without thinking. There are two things you have to learn. One, you have to be your own weatherman, and two, you have to plan ahead. And both of those are related. So
Well, this year, I planned ahead in the beginning of the year. Like I had it figured out when I was going to do all these things, and that all went out the window.
I understand, but you have to adjust. So what I do is I look at the 90-day forecast. So, for example, back in June, July, back in June, I kind of started zeroing in on a date that I could start doing apigard treatments because it's temperature sensitive, right? So here I am in September doing it now. I did my second round today. So you have to plan way ahead. And that's also with buying sugar. You know, just Brad knows what he needs. It's kind of simple. It's a little more simple for Brad because he's buying such large quantities, where you and I are buying, smaller quantities, and there's a variance in price from one week to the next, it seems like. So, I mean, everything I know for me at least, I'm on a 90-day schedule. I have to look ahead 90 days all the time, and that's how I get by. So whether it's pollen honey, treatments, whatever it is, the same thing. I have those oxalic acid extended release pads in my hives right now. I'm supposed to take them out next weekend. I might, but it wouldn't hurt to wait another week when I have more time. But I had to plan for those because those went in July 7th. So I know exactly when, I've got to do these things. It's logistics. That's all it is. And then my favorite saying that I've always, and Bob knows in the pharmaceutical industry, they have standards. But one thing that was planted in our brain was plan your work and work your plan. That's all you have to do. And
Once
what I've lived with.
One thing I look at, and they're not always 100% correct, but they seem to give me a pretty decent idea. Farmers Almanacs.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I mean, no, are they 100%? No, but they do help. But on top of that, let me find something here.
Well, one thing I do is kind of like what Todd said. If I pull my honey, when I do that first honey pull, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm finished with what I deem my honey pull is done, I'm done. Whatever they get after that and the feed that I give them stays on there until the spring.
Well, you got to remember, though, in this situation, I put the supers back on just for them to dry them out. They were only there, and I probably left them on too long, but I had them on there for 2 weeks, and they filled them all, which that should never happen. There should be a dearth during that time frame. So I didn't expect that. So when I went back out to collect them, I went out like a week later and looked at them, and they were about half full. And then I left them on for the next week to let them fill them completely. But there shouldn't be any reserves there, you know what I mean? Or a flow.
Well,
so I had no intention of leaving the supers on.
I guess my counter to that would be you knew there was a dearth coming. At some point,
there's going to dry out the supers. I wasn't expecting them to fill them. So the point is I can't leave that honey can't be left on there anyway because I slam them down to a single box. So that honey wasn't going to stay there no matter what. Now I could have taken it off earlier, and then they could have put that honey into the brood or the lower box, brood box, and maybe that'd been the better solution. But
what I'm saying is the honey that's left in there, I leave on after the pull, and in the spring when I'm making room in the boxes, I'll pull all that out, and that's when I extract that honey out.
Yeah, but I don't leave a super on through the winter. So
it doesn't matter for me if it's in the brood box or in the super or wherever it's at. I leave it on there until spring.
Sure, but I
pull it out.
When I put those on to dry them out, typically I only leave them there for the week. I pull them off and they're dry, and then I put them in storage. In this case, they filled them, And so that they're coming off no matter what. They're going back down to a single. So I had to extract that. I know I could have fed it back to them, but at the end of the day, that was getting pulled off. So I couldn't say I'm going to pull it in the spring because it's getting pulled off.
What
So,
I mean, I understand what you're saying with the way you're doing it, but I'm just giving you an alternative to now you're feeding the shit out of them, trying to hope they make it through winter.
Yeah.
When that honey got put in there, I'd have been like, good for you girls. Here you go. Live on it. I mean, because right now you're struggling to see if you can put enough weight in the colony to make it through the winter.
I still have plenty of time. It's more of a cost issue, right? It's not time. I have until I can start putting it heavier. I'm only feeding it 2 to 1 right now, but I can put on 2 to 1 a pound a week, or sorry, a gallon a week easily. I mean, they'll take more than that if I'll give it to them, but I can give them a gallon a week through the next 6 weeks. So it's not, we come Halloween, that's about the last of it. They won't be able to dry it down properly. Now, last year we didn't have our first snow until Christmas, that's completely out of the norm. Don't get me wrong. So I can't expect that. I'm just saying there may be more time for them to draw it down. So, but I'm not gonna expect that. Right now, I'm gonna expect that they're gonna stop as of the Halloween weekend. We typically always get our first frost, and we usually get a flurry Halloween weekend. It's almost like clockwork. But like I said, last year we didn't get the winter didn't really start last year until Christmas, which was crazy. Because it's usually our winter typically starts around Thanksgiving, and historically our first snow is always the Thanksgiving weekend kind of a thing. But this last couple of years, the weather's just been crazy.
Now, do you keep track of when your flows start and end, or you just happen to see something blooming?
It usually ends around the 4th of July. That's usually our cutoff.
This ain't the best representation, but what I do, I make one for every month, and then I go through and I put the date and whether it's budding out or it's starting to bloom or it's blooming heavy or it ends. And I do that throughout the year, but I make a new one. Basically, I erase all the dates in the middle, and the following year I'll make a new one and kind of get an average over the years and see, hey, I know within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, something's going to be blooming if the weather's been constant, if we got the average rain that we need, temperatures, stuff like that. Now, it will fluctuate.
That's a really good idea to create some kind of a schedule. And then the other side of that, though, is the one thing I just don't know very well is what they're getting. For example, like, goldenrod. Some people say they get nectar off of it. Some people say they get pollen off of it. If you ask,
depends on the
depends on the variety. They got different varieties. Some give you more pollen. Some will actually give you nectar.
Yeah, the ones, I'm watching them bring in pollen by the buckets. The frames are loaded with pollen right now. It's crazy. I was taking some pictures of it today, but they're filling entire frames full of pollen right now.
About to say, you'll have to watch that too. They can get pollen bound just like they get honey bound. If they ain't got no room to work, too much pollen, you may have to pull a frame out and either put another frame in with drawn comb on it, or take that pollen frame and bump it a few times, knock that pollen out.
Yeah, it's insane. It's wet pollen right now, and the amount of pollen, I can't tell you the last time I've seen so much pollen. It's every frame has pollen in it. Not the entire frame. I'm just saying they're just slamming it in the hives right now. So,
Brad, did you get more honey extracted this weekend, or what? What'd you get done over there?
Yeah, we did a little bit yesterday. Took the day off today. Amazing.
Day off.
Kind of healed my head a little bit and healed my body a little bit. It was kind of a long day, but we had some fun. Went on a bit of a day adventure with my wife, and we had a good time and enjoyed each other, enjoyed the day, had a really nice meal out. And so, it's hit to work again tomorrow. I got to feed the bees though, so I'm going to be spending the morning feeding the bees, and then maybe hit the extractor again tomorrow afternoon. One thing I didn't have to do, we're talking about resources, and realized that, man, they bring in a lot of pollen this year. So I didn't add any patties to. I did to the nukes, because there some of them were still growing up, and but all the rest of the colonies, I got frames of pollen in there, so I saved myself some money and let them eat the natural stuff. Let them eat cake.
That's the
So
I've got goldenrod pollen coming in. Our goldenrod hadn't even really bloomed yet, but I'm starting to get some, and you'll see it in the morning, some pollen coming in, but not really tons and tons. I'm just enough, I think, for them to keep rearing some brood.
yeah.
And, I mean,
that was Friday. I think wasn't it Friday I made that video? I was looking at that pallet hive, and the little guys are bringing pollen in there. I couldn't believe it.
the pallet hive. That's the open air colony that was in the pallet.
Yeah. The one I cut out and put in a box, so I call it the pallet hive. So,
well,
that was a brilliant idea, by the way.
That worked out really well, didn't it? I never expected it to work that well. I expected it to, as soon as I lifted it, for it to fall apart, but no, she all went in the box. Bob's your uncle. She's
when Ian was on last night, I didn't even know that I was doing the same thing as he, with the putting feed on the colonies and open feeding at the same time. So I felt like I did accomplish something. I was like, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did something right for a change. Maybe
sometimes I won't put on open feed, but the weather is kind of cool, and maybe they don't fly for a while, so they ignore it, and then they get that warm day and they clean it right up.
Brad,
nicely.
When maybe you don't open feed like Ian, but I put an open feeder out, and a raccoon or something ripped open the lid, flipped it over, and it's all gone. I don't know what was left.
How can a raccoon flip over a tote that's got?
It might not have much left in it. It could have been basically
pounds of stuff in it.
But when I got there today,
so they're not likely to do that.
When I got there today, they had it flipped over. I mean, I filled it the day before. It was flipped on its side, and they had drug out I had last year's corn husks inside of it, floating, and they had drug all that out. The animal did. So something got into it. I don't know if it had any fluid left in it or not, but
maybe a deer came to get a drink.
They had a tote with a lid on it, and I cut holes in the side, kind of like Ian. I think it was Ian that had that.
Sasquatch, that's what it was.
And something got a hold of it, flipped it on its side, and ripped the lid off of it.
I just leave mine wide open if it's going to be sunny out, and let them get it from the top. I see a lot of people drill holes in the side of them so they can just leave it out there if it's raining, but the bees aren't flying when it's raining, so it's not.
Only difference with that, say if you have an out yard and you putting that open feeder out like that, and they got rain coming and you're not going to be back for a few days, you can put that lid on with a hole, so maybe the next day, if it's not raining, they can go ahead and get it until you get back to refill again.
Yeah, I didn't want it to rain and then dilute the sugar a ton. So, but like you said, there may not have been anything left. I really don't know how much was left. I just thought it was crazy, and it made me not want to put more in there today, because I was thinking, is this guy coming back for a midnight snack again tonight?
I got to ask you, were your bees pissy that they didn't have anything, and you felt when you went in them, they felt like they were like you were trying to rob whatever they had? Were they mean or no?
Well, they were mean when I extracted, mean as hell when I extracted.
I mean, when you went in them, like today or whenever you were out there.
No, they've been chill. Ever since I started feeding them, man, they're really chill. But no, I haven't had any problems with them. But when I did extract the supers, they were terrible. They were just absolutely awful. They were like Velcro. It's actually one of the worst that they've ever had them. So, but no, they've been pretty chill. We have a lot of resources coming in right now. Like some guy, I've seen, I trying to think of his name, but it has the two brats.
Carl. Yeah.
Carl. Thank you. Carl was saying that they're still harvesting, like they have honey supers on there that they're harvesting honey from and still. So his environment's got to be exactly the same as mine. I mean, elevation wise and everything, he's probably exactly the same as I am.
Well, see how it goes in the spring for him. If he's pulling all the honey off and how he slams it in there.
You okay, Todd?
Yeah. I just thought of something
Sorry.
funny.
Todd joking up over there.
Oh.
Todd's having a.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Having a comedic moment. Oh my.
So here's something I want to throw in here. I just got a message from a fellow beekeeper online. He talked to him once in a while. He sent me a note. He said, and if you watch that video that I put out, he said that the name of the thread on that IPC tote is a buttress thread. Is anybody familiar with a buttress thread? It's a much more coarse thread than a national pipe thread. And I just did a quick search on that. Sure enough, I can find buttress fittings to go on that IBC tote. Because I just put the guy at the store, he didn't have anything. He said, put this 2-inch, just a rubber coupler thing on. Generally, I use that kind of thing on a drain. But it did work. It worked fine. It's a little bit flexible, so I'd like something a little more rigid on there. So he said it's a buttress thread, it's called. I don't know if anybody here knows anything about that.
Well, I have heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. I always thought it had something to do with fire hoses.
Well, maybe it does. I don't know.
We've been going 2 hours and 23 minutes. So
Score to my game is 16-0. Fresno State's
Fresno beating Arizona.
Arizona State. Yep.
I've got the
On the super box.
I did have Colorado State going in Colorado, but to see what Neon Dion's doing over there.
I have another question, if it's okay.
It's not okay.
I need some advice.
You need advice. Okay, go ahead.
From you professional YouTube creators here. And Lee disappears. As soon as I say that, he's gone.
Not me.
I broke my tripod.
Buy another one.
Buy another.
Well,
Duct tape.
yeah, but I mean, if you're going to buy another one, wouldn't it be nice to get some advice on maybe a nice tripod to buy? I don't need anything super fancy, but I want some good quality. What I've got is a Velbon Sherpa 200.
Don't look at Lee's. It'll be $1,200.
Lee will set you.
No. This one's only like $129.
Yeah,
I ain't going to show you the $800 one.
I think that's less than my Velbon. So, what redeeming features does that have, Lee? It's got a gimbal kind of a mount.
Each leg, you can telescope each leg individual in a twist lock. You can loosen the top up here and scope it up even further in the center.
Yeah, mine does that. Yeah.
And then it's got the ball head on it also.
Right. Mine's got 2 axes. Doesn't have a ball.
And
now, this one also.
See.
This one you can also unscrew one of the legs and it turns into a bipod. Just a single that you can mount your camera on top of that.
What's that useful for? Just mobile or what?
Basically mobile. Just say you're at a conference and you ain't setting a tripod up, but you don't want to hold your camera. You can just take it on that one bipod and just stick it on the ground and hold it up straight.
Yeah.
Do you see what Mark said?
Dad, you will find a buttress at Twin Peaks and Hooters.
Thanks, man. Always looking out for me, I can tell.
I'll find a link here to that one I got. I'm not going to send you a link to my big tripod. I'm sure you don't want to pay that.
No, I don't want something super expensive, but a couple $100 tops. This Velbon, I can't remember how much it was, but it's a UK thing, and I'd sure like to have something I could buy parts for if I if I need, because I didn't break it in a very substantial way, but I don't think I can buy parts. I haven't seen anywhere I can buy the parts.
China.
Yeah, it's a UK product, I think.
Maybe it's in the Yukon.
From
Yukon.
Yukon.
Oh. You only
Now,
pronounce
this
the
is-
first half of the word.
There's a link to the Amazon that I'd bought that one there from us, K&F. The only thing in the picture, it shows it comes with the phone clamp to put like your phone on, but it don't actually come with it. It's an optional accessory, but it's just showing that you can use one on it. And actually, they have went up now. They're $149.
Okay.
But
thanks.
it depends.
I'll look at that.
That's for the 68-inch. You can get a 60-inch for $99. So you can just
68. I can't remember how tall mine is. I wouldn't mind one that's a little bit taller because I have a hard time getting it up high enough to look at me. I'm kind of tall.
No problem getting it up.
Thanks, Bruce.
I-
Yeah, that
I'm
helps.
waiting for
I
someone to
can't get my tripod up.
I'm quick. I'm quick with these things. Brad didn't even catch it. He just
Oh,
blew
A
right
little
past
more,
it.
little more whiskey. Oh, I caught it. Don't you worry.
Rolling off the road into the ditch.
And just like that, everybody gets 10% off my website with the Stream 10 code.
now, if you want a heavy duty tripod, get you a Manfrotto 055 carbon fiber that I got over here.
Oh, carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber and
yeah, but
magnesium.
I don't think I want to pay for that. That's all.
Yeah.
You know.
Tripod,
something nice
ball
and
head, and
strong.
spike feet set is going to run you about $850.
Yeah, I don't think I need that. Like this Velbon is great. It's fine. It's aluminum. It's a nice unit. It's not that heavy. It's fairly robust. It does the job. But I bent one of the lower legs, so I can't fold it up all the way. And then it tipped over the other day and busted off the little thing that locks in the mount plate. So now I got no tripod.
I had to eat the popcorn since Charlie's not here.
Yeah, you do the popcorn.
Are you smarter now?
Yep.
That's smart
Smarter
popcorn.
that I'm hanging around with you guys.
No, that's smart popcorn, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see those buttress fittings on online. I'm gonna look for that because I think I'd rather have something threaded on there than just that rubber thing.
Do they make a conversion like buttress to NPT?
Yeah. I think I see exactly that right here. It's like $10.
Yes, to NFT or MPT or whatever the heck it was I was talking about.
NPT, National Pipe Thread. It's it's like $9.19 Canadian, so it's like what about 50 cents US, something like that.
You see that, huh, Bob? DC don't like us.
Why?
DC don't like us.
On a camera stand.
The only reason I got that heavy duty when I used to do landscape photography too, so I put my big cameras on top of that.
I managed in that. I majored in that for 2 semesters, dude. What was that movie? With Pauly Shore?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, me too.
Like everything. Karate, I measured in Kung Fu for 2 semesters. Anyway, it's not that important. Anyway, guys, it's been 2.5 hours. I'm going to end the stream for tonight. And we'll kick it around in the back if you want to. Otherwise, I know Todd's watching his football game right now.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm good. I'll be around. I'll be here.
Colorado State just went up on Colorado. So, very interesting.
Hey, if Ian's still listening.
Yeah, we flipped the dollar jokes about 25 years ago. I remember we were flipping the dollar jokes for a few years there. So, it happens.
If Ian's still listening, if he has that comment, yeah, you were talking about Bob the other night that he had a suggestion for splitting out colonies.
Well, I don't know if he's still in there.
If he's still around.
All right. Well, I'm going to hit the end live and we'll kick it around.
He's
All
still
right,
in the chat. Have a
Is
good
he?
one.
Good night.
Yep.
See you.
Good night,
See you,
everybody.
everyone.